2. 30 on 2.
It was a live auction
40 on 2.
where the price of the commodity that you were trading was determined by who would pay the highest and who would sell it at the lowest price. When I would pay 5 and someone else would be willing to sell it at 5, we would have a match. We would acknowledge it, check it in the pit by saying, you know, I bought so many contracts from you at this price. And then we'd write it on our cards. We'd end up handing in our cards to our clerks, and the clerks would take it to our clearinghouse.
Yellow coats were designated for clerks. Other than that, all the different colors and different designs that you see down there was to make you stand out among the crowd. There were guys that had checkered jackets, red, white, and blue jackets. Anything that made you stand out in your area of the pit because you needed to be seen.
It's a misunderstanding that traders manipulate the price, that they're responsible for prices going up or down, and it's completely false. The supply and demand drives that. If there's too little supply and demand is high, well, prices are going up. If there's too much supply and demand is flat, prices are going down. The traders are just in the middle. All they're doing is catching something for 1/10 of a penny and passing it on hundreds or thousands of times a day.
It's actually funny because when you first come down here, it's overwhelming. You can't figure anything out. And quickly you kind of discover that guy's a broker and he's an order filler and well, he's a big trader. All of a sudden people take on this personality so you get an idea of what's happening. Well, then you get some confidence and some arrogance and you decide that you're going to do this because you've been practicing and you think you can do it. Well, that's really when the learning starts. Because that's when you realize how incredibly complex and oftentimes scary and difficult and hard it is. These guys are professionals, every one of them.
Each and every day to go in there, trade your own rent money, not know whether you're going to make money or not, is terrifying to a lot of people. And I found it to be very, very scary.
I don't have any clients. I don't have any customers. And it dawns on you, nobody trusts you to do what you do except your family. And so in a lot of ways, I'm a hedge fund manager of my own family's worth, money. And they trust me not to fuck up.
The nature of trading is buying for one price and trying to sell it at a better price, period. You get in there, you make your first trade. You know, if you get whacked 10 times in a row, you pick yourself up by the bootstraps and you do it again.
We started at 7:20. By 7:30, we were dripping wet of sweat. Fortunes had been made and lost in the first 10 minutes.
Everybody had their ups and downs. I had bigger swings due to the size I traded.
It really depends on how much you put on. A 5-tick day, a 5 move from 1 to 6, you can make millions of dollars depending on how much you put on. 100 lot, if you put 100 lot on in the euro dollars, it's worth $2,500, okay? There are guys that have 2,000 lots on. So, you're talking about $200,000 a move, 1 tick. So it moves 5 ticks, you're up $1 million. If it goes 5 ticks against you, you're down $1 million.
If you traded a few contracts at a time, your risk was limited. If you went and took on the market and bought everything available, your risk was enormous. There were traders that went into the pit every day and risked a house.
You know, it wasn't unusual for guys to be making 20, 30 grand a day. It wasn't unusual for them to be losing 10, 20, 50,000 a day. And a lot of times you did that on one trade.
Whether people like to admit it or not, this is a form of gambling. How is it not? If you buy a stock, you're buying the idea that that stock's going up, right? I mean, that's what we do, and options are the same way. I mean, there is a gambling mentality to what we do down there. It's gambling to go down there every day because you are risking something.
but the rewards were phenomenal. If you took the biggest risk, you're either going to get crushed or you're going to be the happiest man on campus this afternoon.
I think somebody once said that floor trading offered blue-collar guys a chance to get in with the big boys. Commodity trading only has two purposes. One, to make a lot of money. Two, to manage a lot of money. And the faster you make big money, the faster you can do things with your life. And I think that's what it's allowed me to do. The numbers for successful guys are fleeting because you're only as good as your last trade. It's what you don't lose. It really is. I mean, there's been guys who've made more money than me, but for some reason or another, it was taken away. And so I think the more successful trader is the guy who can keep it for, you know, to the 10th, to the 9th race. The good traders know when to make money and leave. I tell you, I went to work every day. And when I wasn't at work, I was a miserable human being. I mean, without a doubt, I wanted to be back at work because I knew how much money you could make. And so when I go away on vacation, it didn't matter what I spent because I knew I was losing more not being at work, you know. And then somebody said, but you could be losing money. And I go, you know, you never think of that way. Everything can be traced to being around the best traders in the free world. I would watch these guys trade in my pit, and I would say, if they're buying, I'm buying. If they're selling, I'm selling. But I also wanted to see, what was important to me, how they handle a loser. It's not what you make, it's what you don't lose that determines how much money you have at the end of the year. And I would watch these bigger traders, and I go, how do they handle the stress of having a losing trade? What do they do when they had a losing trade?
I literally just learned by watching the most successful people in the world